the researchers whose work I think you should really look into, and I'll get into solutions in a moment, okay? You've got to look into these guys' work. Okay, write them down, look into them on your own. Eric von Däniken, okay? Brilliant work. Chariots of the Gods, The Return of the Gods, and many other works. We have 15 minutes. I'll try to blast through this. Zecharia Sitchin, phenomenal and monumental amounts of work that he's done with the 12th Planet, There Were Giants Upon the Earth, The Lost Book of Enki, and many others. Lloyd Pye, I dedicated the whole presentation to this gentleman. His work with the Star Child skull is phenomenal. You have to check out the book, Everything You Know Is Wrong. You have to go online and download this guy's YouTube videos and watch them all. You have to understand Lloyd Pye's work. It is invaluable to this field of research. Michael Tellinger, most people don't know about him. I think he's gaining more notoriety, and rightly so. The Slave Species of the Gods. You have to check this book out. It is required reading as far as I'm concerned. David Icke, written incredible work, so well sourced too. All the people who attack this guy's work, I guarantee you have never read his books. They've heard a clip, a snippet of one of his videos and say, oh, I disagree with that. You got to understand how well documented this guy's books are, and they're 600-page books, and he's written like 18 of them. Okay, so no small amount of research. It's monumental amounts of research. And I've always said in my work, if the world had a tenth of the courage of this man, we'd be free today. Credo Mutwa, who David Icke brought forward, he's a Zulu shaman. I believe they call them Sanusi in the Zulu culture. You got to check out the video, The Reptilian Agenda. This guy's a library of knowledge. Michael Tessarion. How many people are familiar with this gentleman? Okay. If you're not familiar with Michael Tessarion, I don't know what to tell you. You have to become familiar with him. You have to watch the whole series of Origins and Oracles. How many people have actually sat down and watched all 22 discs of Origins and Oracles? Raise your hand. And there's one person who's not here. I think Jay stepped out of the room. He has 4 people in the room. That's unacceptable. Absolutely unacceptable. This work is one of the most important works in modern history. You have to get these DVDs, get them from a friend, talk to me, I have them, I can copy them for you, okay? You have to watch these DVDs, all right? Graham Hancock, Fingerprints of the Gods, Lost Knowledge of the Ancients, Knowledge of the Lost Civilizations. Michael Cremo, Forbidden Archaeology, brilliant work. Somebody who I've been following recently, L.A. Marzulli, brilliant work on the Nephilim and the Watchers. The Watchers video series is one of the best documentary series I've seen recently. I highly recommend it. Comes at things from a little bit more of a biblical perspective, but hey, his research is great. David Hatcher Childress, again, mostly dealing with the technology of the ancients. Trey Smith, another person who's done a lot of great videos on the Nephilim and genetic manipulation of humanity. Georgios Tsoukalos, I think, did a lot of great work in the early parts of Ancient Aliens. He's looking a little tame in this picture, but I like his early work. I think some of the later seasons fell a little bit short of what he was doing in the earlier seasons, but I think the earlier seasons of Ancient Aliens should definitely be checked out. Emmanuel Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision, about the history of our early solar system. Robert Schoch has done some great work on the dates of some of the ancient megalithic structures. Check out his work as well. Alan and Dallaire wrote the book Cataclysm about the deluge in ancient times. I think that's a book definitely worth checking out. Allegories that we see this story told about in modern fiction. Okay, They Live, story about alien takeover of the earth and how only a certain group of people can see them, who have the drive and the desire to see the subliminal messages and the mind control that they put out. Roddy Piper was the star, probably my favorite movie of all time. If anyone hasn't seen They Live, it's required viewing. The tales about these two brothers who come to a less advanced civilization, and one of them wants to become a king. The man who would be king, it's the tale by Rudyard Kipling, told in the movies again. And then a remake of this, The Road to El Dorado, which was, I believe, put forward out of DreamWorks. And again, the two brothers, one of them wants to rule the city of El Dorado and get all the gold. They came for the gold. They stayed for the adventure. Oh, what an adventure it is. The story of Thor, of course, is the story of the brothers Enki and Enlil, okay? With their king Anu, who is Odin in the Norse tradition. These are the gods, and the Norse name, it's just it's just been retold. This would be Enki, this would be Enlil, and this would be Anu. It's just retold, and of course the gods have a penchant for earth women, you know? It's all there in Hollywood, they're telling you. The Island of Dr. Moreau, about the genetic manipulation of humanity. This is just an allegory. We're on the island of Dr. Moreau. It's called the Earth, okay? And it says, through DNA experimentation, Dr. Moreau has upset the balance of nature. He has turned animals into humans, and now heaven has turned into hell. Right on the cover of a DVD box. Story about resources being taken from different cultures and mined. Dune, the spice being mined. This is like the Anunnaki coming for the gold. And again, it's an allegory about what we're doing to other countries with oil. And like Avatar, same theme. An extraterrestrial culture comes to another planet, exploits the resources and kills the people. And you know, it's like them coming to the Earth for the resources they wanted. And what we're doing, because that's what our parents taught to us, we're doing the same here and exploiting third world countries for their resources. Great allegory, that's why it was so popular, and I think it might still be the top grossing film of all time. The Matrix trilogy, which I've done another series on, video series, this is another allegory about the takeover by non-human intelligence over humanity and making them into a slave race. Again, in this, it's depicted as AI or artificial intelligence, but just substitute the artificial intelligence for these extraterrestrial beings. Substitute AI for ET, and you have the same basic story. Star Trek Deep Space Nine, a brilliant allegory about this race of founders who are shapeshifters and who control this other race of reptilian-like creatures who are called the Jem'Hadar, okay? And they keep them on drugs, which is called white, which they pump into their neck, and that's an allegory for adrenaline, keeping the police hopped up and addicted to adrenaline, you know, and keeping them acting as the house slaves for the designs of the founders. It's a great allegory. There's a lot of other allegorical stuff in Deep Space Nine as well, which I don't have time to get into. Perhaps the best allegorical movie to check out regarding this ancient story, which was crushed in Hollywood and crushed in newspaper reviews. Whenever they don't want you to see a movie, they're going to crush it in the reviews to dissuade as many people from seeing it as possible. This is one of the best movies ever made about the true origins of humanity and the ancient story of what happened on this planet. And I guarantee you hardly anybody has seen it. How many people have seen this movie? Look at that. 5 people in the room. Okay? Battlefield Earth. It was written by L. Ron Hubbard, okay? And it was made into a Hollywood movie. Look at the similarities in the skull type. Okay? And this is the giants, and he's holding him up by the throat. That's how tall they are. Okay? This story, very positive though, because it talks about the role of knowledge and the importance of knowledge in understanding how to get out of this slave culture. Okay? Highly recommend Battlefield Earth. Part 3 and last, I probably have like 5 minutes left. Okay? I'll try to speed through this. All right, the unwritten story of our future. It's about understanding the abuse victim cycle and how to get out of it. Okay, when a traumatic event or abuse occurs, the abuser, the person who experiences it, either identifies with the abuser or the victim, and therefore they continue to repeat the cycle. Okay, only when we have enough knowledge, care, and willpower can we break the abuse victim cycle. And I talk about this a lot in my podcast. Go back to the ones I did on that and check it out. It's about balance between the brain such that we're not in master think or slave think. Again, in my podcast, I cover this extensively. When you're in left brain imbalance, it leads to masculine domination, the suppression of the emotion, and eventually roots us into the lower brain, the reptile brain, okay? If you're in right-brained imbalance, okay, that roots us in the mammalian brain, which means that our emotions are out of control, and we're not really stepping up with confidence, with courage, and standing up for our rights. We go into slave-think mentality. Healing this divide, balancing both hemispheres of the brain by working with these different brain dynamics holistically is the way out of that imbalance. Genetics versus epigenetics. I just want to say here that I feel the power of consciousness can trump anything that has been done to us genetically. So to leave people with a little bit of hope, the answer is consciousness, and that could totally break any of the genetic programming that these beings have done to us, no matter how deep. Okay, no matter how deeply seated it is. But that's if we take the time to explore the knowledge of ourselves. If you want to look into how epigenetics can trump genetics, really look into the works of Dr. Bruce Lipton, cell biologist. His work, The Biology of Belief, is absolutely essential to that matter. Okay? Self-loathing is the underlying psychological condition that causes people to attempt to abdicate their own personal responsibility, to exercise conscience, and fall into the patterns of willful ignorance, order following, and the justification of immoral behavior. Self-loathing is created when earlier psychological trauma has been suppressed and buried into the subconscious mind, instead of being confronted, dealt with, and healed. The effects of such unresolved trauma often take the form of feelings of inadequacy and unworthiness, whether those feelings are real, suggested, or imagined. And this is the dynamic of a self-loather. I have suffered, therefore I shall cause suffering unto others. That cycle has to be broken, and this is the exact mindset, okay? I've suffered, therefore I'm going to cause suffering, that keeps people in the prison of their own making. 5 minutes, great. Self-respect, from the Latin re, meaning again, and spectare, meaning to look at, is the only thing that can ultimately heal self-loathing, and therefore help to put humanity on the path to healing and conscience. Self-respect ultimately means to take another look at oneself. Respect, to look at again, to look at the self again, to go in and understand the aspects of human consciousness. Okay? These are what I call the 3 R's: respect, remembrance, and responsibility. Respect, remembrance, and responsibility is the path out of this prison, okay? Self-respect, taking another look at the self, remembering who we really are, okay? Self-knowledge, knowledge of self. The ways that we can express our own consciousness is through thought, emotion, and action. This is the real holy trinity that exists within each one of us. It's been called the mind-body-spirit connection, the masculine and feminine aspects together with the creative aspects of the mind, the thoughts, to be unified such that we are a being that as we think, so we feel, so we act, and there's no contradiction between those 3 modes of consciousness. Here's the expressions: thought, emotion, and action, the fulfillments of which are the fulfillments of thoughts are knowledge, understanding, and wisdom. The fulfillments of emotion are true care, empathy, and compassion. The fulfillments of action are courage, willpower, and persistence. This is what humanity needs to develop. If we stay in the failures of thought, emotion, and action, we stay in the prison. The failures of thought are ignorance, foolishness, and naivete. The failure of emotion is apathy, indifference, and callousness. The failure of action is cowardice, laziness, and submission. Okay? That's the basic knowledge chart that we need to take into ourselves and understand how we work, because our controllers know how the human consciousness works, and they've done their best to keep that knowledge from us. We have to understand our own sovereignty. Sovereign is a word derived from Latin, the adverb super, meaning above, and the noun regnum, meaning rulership or control. Thus, sovereign means one who is above the rulership or control of another, or in a word, free. Sovereignty, the word sovereign, simply means, ladies and gentlemen, not a slave. It doesn't mean anything else. It never has meant anything else. It means that you are the ruler of yourself, and no one else rules over you externally. It means you are not a slave. Every person in the world is sovereign, whether they know it or not. Slavery is illegitimate. None of us are legitimately slaves, therefore we are all sovereigns. An individual's personal responsibility to choose right action over wrong action for themselves is always their own. One can only make the claim that they can, quote, abdicate their personal responsibility for such choice, for such decision to someone else. This can never actually be done in reality. More simply put, an individual is always responsible for their own behavior, for their own actions. We need to grow up, think for ourselves, and stop following orders. Following orders is not a virtue. It is the path to total destruction. It is the path to slavery. It should not be looked at as a virtue. Really wrapping this up, the bottom line of all of this is, regardless of how troubled our cosmic childhood may have been, humanity's childhood is over, ladies and gentlemen. Humanity's childhood is over, and a choice stands before us all. That choice is either to enter cosmic adulthood or perish. That is the choice that stands before humanity right now and is up to each one of us to make. The path to that cosmic adulthood is the understanding of natural law and how to apply it in our lives. That is the master key which the universe has given to us. That is the pathway to freedom that can unlock all the locks on all the doors to all the cages. Okay? Natural law is the answer. Okay? And what the universe is beckoning us and calling us forth to do, ladies and gentlemen, in 2 words, what the universe is beckoning us and calling us forth to do on this planet is to break our chains and to end slavery. To end slavery. When we do that, and not a moment until, maybe we will be able to create a new world that is really worth living in for ourselves and our children, and then maybe we will be able to go off-world and join our other benevolent brothers and sisters in the stars. Thank you very much.